Hello and welcome, it's Jennifer McGuire, and this video is part of my Favorite Crafty Things 2015 series. This video is going to cover die cutting essentials, basically any tools that I think are helpful for die cutting, and hopefully you'll find something that might work for you. Now be sure to check out my other video that I just posted today also. It shares my favorite dies for 2015. So that video also went up and I'll link to that here. Okay, so I think it makes sense to start with die cutting machines, and I have tried a lot of die cutting machines over the years, and I have always found that the best investment for a die cutting machine is one from Sizzix. The Sizzix Big Shot I think is best for the average crafter. This is what I use daily. I also have an electronic vagabond machine that I use for my own crafting. It's just hard to use in videos. But this Sizzix Big Shot has a good price point. It will last you a long time. And you are able to do die cutting with it and embossing folders and such. Now, this gray and white Big Shot Sizzix comes with this extended multi-platform. Now, this is longer, so you can do border dies on it if you want to. What I like about this multi-platform that it comes with is that you can flip those tabs open so you can do other techniques with this platform. You don't have to have a bunch of plates. Some die cut machines require a bunch of plates. All you need for this machine is this multi-purpose platform and 2 cutting plates. So whenever you want to do, say, an embossing folder, you just flip one of these tabs open and you're good to go. And it tells you right on the platform what you need and how to do it, which really makes it easy. You can run things through here that are up to 6 inches wide, which is nice and wide and great for embossing folders. Now, there is an electronic version of this die cutting machine coming out very soon. I don't have it yet, but if maybe you have trouble with the cranking of the machine, you could always check out the electronic version. Now, you do need the cutting plates. Those also come with them, and I'll talk about those a little bit later. Now, if you watch my videos, you may see me using this multi-purpose platform. This is the old one that came with my older Big Shot, and I'm just used to this smaller size, so that's why you see me use it in the video. However, this multi-purpose platform works just like that longer one that it comes with now. There is also a magnetic platform, and I used that for a while, but I've kind of gotten away from it. I just found that the multi-purpose platform was better for me. But I will show you in this video later on how I keep my dies still when I do run it through my machine. A lot of people have also asked about the Big Shot Plus. This is basically the same machine, but much bigger. So the opening here is 9 inches wide. So if you wanted to put a full 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock through here and do die cutting, you can. And there are also just a handful of dies that are too big for the regular Big Shot, so it works in here. Now, I will be honest with you. Here I'm going to compare the size of the platforms. I'll be honest with you. I have this Big Shot Plus. I don't use it very often. The only time I use it is when I'm mass producing, like to prepare kits or a bunch of pieces at once. The platforms are all separate pieces, so you got to keep those on hand, but there are big cutting plates that come with it. It does have the instructions on there on how to use it. So the Big Shot Plus, I only think this is worth the investment if you do a lot of die cutting for maybe cards you sell where you make a lot at once, or if you're preparing class kits. It is a very big and heavy machine, so that is something to keep in mind, but it is available if that's something that you would need. So no matter what die cut machine you have, I think it's always good to have a spare pair of replacement cutting plates on hand. So what happens is when you use the cutting plates often, they get a lot of cut marks in them. That's just natural. And sometimes when you have a lot of cut marks in your plates, the cut marks leave impressions on your cardstock, and that can mess up what you're creating. So what I do is you have the 2 cutting plates here. I always use a cutting plate on the bottom that's messy. So you see that one on the left, and I keep my clean cutting plate on the top. So I put the kind of used cutting plate on the bottom, then I put my paper and my die face down, and then the clean plate on top. And that way I can be sure there's no impressions on the front of my paper. Now, I also recommend that you rotate these often, and that will prevent from warping. But by having a spare set of replacement cutting plates, you can just replace one of the plates when it gets too messy. I don't do this very often, so they do last a long time, but it's good to have on hand. I also highly recommend the Memory Box Metal Shim. There are some other companies that make them. Any of the metal shims are great. I put that between my platform and my bottom cutting plate. That metal shim helps with really intricate dies, and it makes sure that it cuts through the paper. If you don't have a metal shim, if you're finding your die isn't cutting all the way through the paper, you can put in some pieces of cardstock shim, but the metal shim really does make a big difference. And you put it under your cutting plates. And that memory box metal shim, I have used mine for a long time, and it is wonderful. It really makes a big difference with getting really good die cuts from intricate dies, such as this one from Simon Says Stamp. Now, die cut machines can also be used with embossing folders, which I'll talk about another day. But you can also get an embossing pad, which allows you to emboss with your dies. So basically, here's how it works. This is a Spellbinder embossing pad. It just is a little bit of a cushion that you put underneath your paper and your die. Now, I'm running this through my die cut machine as I would an embossing folder. There's instructions on the multi-purpose platform there. I just open up one of the tabs. So I have the embossing pad on my bottom cutting plate, the paper, and then the die face down, and then the other cutting plate on top. Now, when I run this through, because that embossing pad is there, it will not cut, the die will not cut through the paper, but instead leave an impression. So check this out. Look at that beautiful impression against that cardstock. Now, if you want a deeper impression, you could go and put the metal shim underneath the cutting plate. This will force the die to press a little bit deeper into the paper. So I encourage you to experiment with whatever die you have to see whether or not the metal shim needs to be there. But usually you don't need to use the metal shim for that. So again, you just do the cutting plate, the embossing pad, cardstock, the die face down, and another cutting plate on top. You can use this embossing pad with other machines also, and it's very inexpensive. I think there's actually 2 in a pack. So look how beautiful that impression is. The next tool that I recommend is a paper piercer. I like this one from Tim Holtz. Now, I use a paper piercer to poke through the little holes in the back of the wafer-thin dies to pop the die cuts out. Now, there are a lot of new tools out on the market to help remove die cuts, and there are a lot of tricks like using dryer sheets and such. I personally find this the easiest. I don't have to go get anything else. I use my paper piercer for a lot of things. I don't know. I find this to be the easiest, but there are some other options out there if you want to look into them. I like the Tim Holtz paper piercer because it retracts and I don't have to worry about injuring myself accidentally. Okay, this next one is really clever. My friend Heather came up with this, and I will link to her. This is brilliant, and she said that I could share this here. This is a magnetic bowl, and it holds your little dies while you're creating. I have accidentally thrown dies away before and lost them on my work surface. So all I do is throw them into this little magnetic bowl, and it keeps track of them while I'm creating. Look at it, holds them all there. She also got me this cute little bowl, that little pink bowl that you see there. She got that on clearance at Target just so it would look pretty. But anyways, that little magnetic bowl is really handy. It's from a hardware store. I'll link to a few different options in different sizes that you can check out. But this is a great way of keeping track of your dies as you're creating. And I appreciate Heather sharing that tip with us. And I will link to her blog where she shares some other die cutting tips also. And by the way, I also keep another little bowl on hand to hold my little die cuts as I'm creating too. Okay, so now you also need a pair of die snips or wire cutters. A lot of dies, due to the manufacturing process, come connected. So you see all these little dies are connected by little pieces of wire. You can use any kind of wire cutters or die snips to cut these apart. I try to cut up as close to the metal edge as possible. Some people use a metal file to smooth them out so they don't have sharp edges, but I've never done that. I just am careful when I use them. Now, you got to be careful. When you cut some of these little metal pieces off, they might go flying. So what I do is I put a Swiffer dusting cloth down, and then I just cut right into the dusting cloth. Then I can pick up that cloth and put it in the trash can. I don't have to worry about cutting myself with those tiny little pieces of metal. You could also do this into a paper towel, but that helps to kind of contain those tiny little metal pieces so you don't get hurt. The next tool I like most for die cutting is Micropore Tape. This is a very thin, removable tape that tears very easy. You can get it with or without a little dispenser. And I can reuse these pieces a few times. And I use these to hold my dies onto my paper as I run it through the die cut machine so that it doesn't shift. I really like using this because it doesn't tear my paper. I use it for other techniques also. I find this handier than the magnetic platform that I was using a while with my Big Shot. And I can use this tape for masking and other things also. You'll often see in my videos I have little pieces of tape here on the handle of my Big Shot so that I can just grab them and reuse them a few times with different die cutting projects. I can't recommend that tape enough. I think it's wonderful. Okay, now for storage. I use these die storage pockets. These happen to be from Simon Says Stamp. They're actually CD or DVD hold pockets. They have a flap on the back that tucks in. They're nice and thick and durable. Most of my dies fit in that die pocket. The ones that are too big, I put in an Avery Elle stamp pocket. That's the bigger one that you see on the left, what I normally store stamps in. Now, I will link to a video about my die cut storage here so you can learn more. Now, some people put a piece of magnet paper inside with their dies. I only do that if it comes with the die. I don't want to invest money in magnetic paper. I'd rather buy more dies instead. But you can cut a piece of magnetic paper and keep it in there to keep your dies all lined up nicely. But again, I'll link to a video with more information on my die storage system here so you can check that out. I just wanted to show it briefly here. So there you have some of the essentials that I think are really important for die cutting. I will have links to the products I talk about in the YouTube description below, but I encourage you to go over to my blog for more information because I will have more sources, I'll have the other die video, and I'll have discount codes and giveaways. You can head to my blog by clicking this button on the top left here. Across the middle, you see 3 more videos that might be helpful to you. The first link will take you to my favorite Crafty Things series. The middle one will take you to my favorite dies video, and the last one will take you to my favorite dies video from last year. So be sure to check those out also. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again very soon.